All right. Brady, obviously Michigan's got a little bit of a quarterback conundrum. You saw Davis Warren start. Let's start with him.
Okay.
What did you see out of him? Obviously, Michigan was kind of going more with a horizontal pass game. Do you think that was to kind of get him worked in? What were your thoughts on how he played?
It could be a combination of things. I mean, I think the first thing is when you look at kind of spreading the field more horizontally like that, it could be a byproduct of your own personnel. It could be scheme-based, maybe what the defense like Fresno State was presenting you at that point in time, what the quarterback excels at, what he feels comfortable with. So there's a bunch of reasons for it. I think at the end of the day, though, Davis did a really good job. First start. He seems to be the guy that probably feels most comfortable with the system and everything that he's being asked to run, which is why he's going to play the bulk of the amount of shares, unless they're keeping some stuff back because they didn't want to show it before they have to play Texas in week 2. So that's always that wild card you don't really know about.
Obviously, he didn't throw for a ton of yards, but was there something that you saw? Because like you said, you thought he did a pretty good job. Was there something you saw that out of him that you said, like, okay, he can do this? Because there's a lot of naysayers out there.
You know, I think Michigan does a great job. They've always kind of done this. I mean, even going back when I was young, growing up watching guys like Tom Brady, they have tremendous footwork. They know how to kind of run that pro-style system. So, taking the snap from under center, a sense of timing and rhythm, and throwing with anticipation. You can tell he already has good chemistry with Loveland, tight end. So those things were pretty apparent just in one game's time. And so now it just really comes down to him continuing to develop, allowing some people to emerge kind of on the outside. And usually that takes just more game experience playing with guys and having some of those breakout moments where you both become more confident in each other when you're out there in the game field.
People used to always say, I think it kind of changed a little bit in around 2018, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none. And then I think when Clemson was working in Trevor Lawrence, Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa, people backed off that a little bit. How does it affect Michigan by having two guys who are still kind of coming in and having those opportunities in game?
So I think the first thing is when you come to those critical junctures in the game, who is going to be the one to take the snap to run that play? Is it going to be Davis Warren? Is it going to be Alex Orji? How much of that is dependent upon the flow of the game, what the situation is? 4th and 1, you're probably thinking Alex, let him go run. If it's a critical third down, 3rd, 7, or 8, probably thinking more Davis Warren. So sometimes that's dictated by that. But I think the most difficult thing to take into account when you have two quarterbacks out there is all other 10 guys have to adjust. So the way the play call comes in, the cadence, what it sounds like when I'm barking at the lineman or trying to change stuff, the timing and rhythm we talked about obviously with Davis Warren as compared to Alex, all those things are different. And so everyone else has to adjust, not even mentioning the coaching staff as well. And oftentimes that can become a little bit of a burden. And I think the inflection point will be when you're faced with adversity. Who do the guys in the locker room look to? Do they look at Alex Orji, to look at Davis Warren? Can they make it copacetic where you're looking at both and it's one voice? It's not impossible, but it's harder to make that work.
What do you look at this matchup against Texas? It's kind of funny, I think, because Michigan's kind of won by not necessarily utilizing the quarterback in like a big dynamic way, despite having J.J. McCarthy. At times he didn't really do a lot.
I would argue this, though. When he was asked to step up and make a play, he did. And I think that more than anything else over the past 2 years is what stood out to me. And that's what really Davis Warren and Alex Orji are now tasked with, and even Sharon Moore for that matter, is they need a guy behind center who, he may not be asked to do everything like you see in some other offenses in college football, but when he is called upon to make a play, he has to deliver. JJ did that over the past 2 years, and that's, I think, the tough part for Davis Warren and Alex Orji, and even Sharon Moore. One of those two has to step up and prove that they can in that moment.
What do you think that those guys have to do, or just the Michigan offense? How do they come away with a win against a team like Texas?
They have to control the line of scrimmage. That's the biggest thing. This Texas team, I think they appear to be one of the top teams based on their roster, how they've recruited and developed, and obviously hit the transfer portal hard in college football. My question really is, how physical are they up front? They lost Devondre Sweat, who was mammoth of a man, to the NFL. Same thing with Byron Murphy, who was a really impactful player. Those two interior losses are huge to that defense, and Michigan's a team that's prided itself on, running the football in a variety of ways. And I think if they continue to keep their identity on defense, keeping this a low-scoring game, they're able to run the football, limit the possessions that Ewers and Texas has. You're looking at a formula I think really breeds success. I think for Michigan moving forward, maintaining that identity.
Wink Martindale's defense is obviously.
I was around him in Denver. Wink Martindale is the flipping man. I hope he hears this because I loved him. Every player who's played for him has loved him. He loves to bring pressure. He's he's the type of defensive coordinator where he's got a Rolodex of things he's going to do. Every game there's going to be something different. He's going to exploit a weakness in your pass protection or something that he sees. You go back to last week at times you're seeing them blitz the back. You're seeing some of the field pressures. Those are things that he's always going to have wrinkles in every single week. And so as a quarterback, man, you got to have your head on swivel, and you got to really be on top of not only going into it, the different game plan you're going to see from him, maybe than what he showed last week, for example, versus Fresno State, but also the adjustments he makes throughout the course of the game.
How difficult is it for a quarterback to go up against all of those different simulated pressures, those different coverages, like the way that he kind of presents things pre-snap? How does that really affect?
It's really hard because your job as a quarterback is to make good decisions in 2.5 seconds, right? Like once that ball is snapped, whatever you were thinking pre-snap, you got to confirm it, or you got to flip what you were thinking and adjust and know where your quick answers are or your solutions are, or be able to make a play with your legs. And that's so much easier said than done. The crowd plays a huge part in that, because it's so loud, and so communication becomes difficult. So you got to get guys on the same page, and that's really hard to do. And talking about, again, seconds before the snap of the football, or even once the play is snapped. So it's difficult, man. Like I said, he throws the kitchen sink at you, and you just got to deal with it.
Do you have any questions?
Oh yeah. How do you think the transition was as far as so many things go on, investigations, Harbaugh goes to the NFL? Did you find that to be as smooth as possible under the circumstances, given it to Jerome Moore?
I think so. I mean, I think they're so callous to going through that last year in the season that the fact that they're not even playing games, and even though you're going through it in the offseason, it doesn't really impact you quite as much. At least that's my feeling on the outside. Only Jerome Moore and staff could tell you better about that. But I personally just feel like this team has kind of built a culture where they're not affected or influenced by a lot of things on the outside.
What do you think's the biggest strength you've seen last week in Michigan, and the biggest thing that they can improve on, whether it's schematically, personnel grouping, whatever you think the biggest strength or weakness heading into this one?
Two things on offense. They got to create big plays in the pass game or down the field. I think we talked about that earlier, but also getting Donovan Edwards out in space, getting him the football, and allowing him to utilize that game-breaking speed. He's always showed up in big games, and this is a big game. So that's part of it on offense. I think defensively, that's the cornerstone of this team right now. Is they have stars all across their defense, but it's being able to get out the field on third down, allow Michigan to kind of limit the amount of possessions that this Texas offense can have. Sark's a great play caller. Ewers is talented. They got a lot of speed, so you want to keep the ball away from those guys.
My last question is, Donovan Edwards, you just say get him in space. Along those lines, do you think they should utilize him out of the back as a receiver more, or even Mullings had some success last week to where they split backs and motion Edwards into the slot, utilize him more in space as a receiver?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not going to tell Jerome Moore or Kirk Campbell how to do their job. They're with these guys every day, so they know what they have. I just always feel like if Donovan Edwards and Mullings, if those two guys are two of your best players on offense, get them on the field at the same time. Because obviously you got two different weapons and different ways you can utilize them, but it's also forcing the defense to have to deal with that. And so how are they going to play that matchup or that personnel grouping? And so it's a wrinkle to them and puts more pressure on them. So I'm always more for that when you have two big-time players in the backfield, and maybe you're still waiting for someone to emerge on the outside of wide receiver.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.